Good morning, Newsmax Daily Podcast family. The day is Thursday, January 9th, and my name is Kay Hill, filling in for Tony Marino, who is on vacay today. Some of you know me as Kay Smythe or Kay Smythe Hill, but it's actually just Kay Hill now. I'm usually your happy, ranty, legal resident, alien, immigrant, whatever you want to call me, but not today. Today we're going to turn directly to Greg Kelly for our first segment. He's got the latest on the Los Angeles wildfires and that absolute clown show who runs the city, Karen Bass. Mayor Karen is actually the definition of useless. She, along with her Soros bucks, is destroying the place that I used to consider my American hometown. I'm going to let Greg Kelly tell you the rest because you guys can't see my face, but I'm doing like that kind of like angry smile that women do right before we flip a table.
Well, we've had horrible, crazy wildfires before, but I don't remember them ever running out of water. The fire hydrants not being able to provide water to fight the fire. It's probably happened before, but it's happening right now. It's one of the reasons why this fire is totally and completely out of control. I think that's a McDonald's on fire in Pasadena, if you can make it out there. Yeah, of course, there's the arches. It's just chaos. Apocalyptic, they say, and that's very accurate. Los Angeles County, and maybe you saw this video, the dog is inside, and the flames, how those guys were able to stay in there as long as they did. Just awful, the situation. And zero containment at this point. We just checked, zero containment. That is very, very alarming. 10% contained, 20% contained. No, that's where we are. And it is a stupid, dumb, woke government that allows itself to run out of water during a forest fire season. But that's what we have on our hands. And the closer I look, nationally, of course, and at Los Angeles itself, Los Angeles, wow, the person in charge, she has her priorities, and it's not what it's supposed to be.
What I would do with street vendors would be to do outreach to them, and to make sure that they are meeting the regulations. And if they're not, to help them do that, to provide technical assistance. When I started Community Coalition and we were trying to deal with the problem of crack cocaine and we were trying to get people off crack, we used people who had been formerly addicted.
Thank you.
People in recovery. My plan would cost about $290 million. I liked the Democratic Party 10 years ago, and I like the Democratic Party of today, because the Democratic Party of today is more diverse politically and diverse in every single way. I am a lifelong pro-choice Democrat who is always on your side.
How did this become an agenda for a major political party? All of this stuff that has nothing to do with the quality of our lives. A mayor, right? You're supposed to clean the streets, put out the fires. Guy had a great question, actually, because she's so proud of being pro-choice. Listen to this.
The issue of being a lifelong pro-choice Democrat.
Yes.
How much does the L.A. mayor even have to do with abortion rights?
Well, let me just tell you, it's a question of values. It's a question of democratic values. We are a democratic city, and I think that that is one of the differences between the two of us. Los Angeles and California, I would say with pride, is welcoming people from other places to receive reproductive rights.
Reproductive rights. How is her valuing abortion, right, working out right now as a fire rages? You know, it just doesn't, it's not compatible, right? There are certain basics we want from government. In fact, it's in the Constitution. Our glorious founding fathers had an idea what government would be good at and what they really shouldn't mess with. The general welfare, to pay the debts and provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States. Now, what does general welfare mean? Well, according to some of the founding fathers, like James Madison, you could interpret it this way. Spending must be at least tangentially tied to one of the other specifically enumerated powers, such as regulating interstate or foreign commerce, or providing for the military. Sounds very reasonable. Alexander Hamilton put it this way: to benefit the general welfare, such as to assist national needs in agriculture or education, provided that the spending is general in nature. All right, straightforward. I don't think the founding fathers were thinking of Gavin Newsom or Mayor Bass and whatever the hell this stuff is, right? These crazy, expensive, woke initiatives. and I don't think they ever had anything in mind quite like this. This is a document from the fire department, all right? The LA Fire Department. It's a little bit hard to read. I have it here electronically on my iPad. It's all about a major priority, the Racial Equity Action Plan. And what's that all about? In accordance with the City of Los Angeles, the racial equity vision to end systemic, institutional, and structural racism in the City of Los Angeles. What are they going to do in the LA Fire Department? They're going to come up with a plan providing equitable opportunities and access for people of all races. Now, that may sound great, but we've been through this before. The word equitable is not equality. Equitable means benefit without merit.
All right, and up next, we're going to pivot now to the other major story of the week, which is Mark Zuckerberg taking zero responsibility for the mass censorship on his Meta platforms and pretending like he suddenly gives a crap about our First Amendment rights. Personally, I don't believe a word Mark Zuckerberg says. I think that if, God forbid, we get another overcorrection and the extreme woke progressive Democrats get back into office again in the future, Zuck will gladly hand over your personal Meta accounts to their secret police force and we'll all end up in the gulags, guys. Then again, I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I don't think anyone other than Mark Zuckerberg would be able to convince me that I'm wrong, but I'm probably never going to meet him, so there we go. Anyway, social media sucks, but Newsmax's Chris Plante and the Right Squad does not. So let's turn it over to Chris and his team. And one of my personal favorite people ever, Matt Foldy, who was one of my favorite people to debate with. He was on the show last night. And if anyone else would like to debate me, you can hit me up on social media. I probably won't respond, though.
And we've reached a point where it's just too many mistakes and too much censorship. The recent elections also feel like a cultural tipping point towards once again prioritizing speech. So we're going to get back to our roots and focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our policies, and restoring free expression on our platforms.
Get back to our roots, like the roots of Western civilization that came out of the Magna Carta. Now, Roma, I got to say the fact that we're even having this discussion, that CNN and Abby Phillip are not just outright defenders of free speech and the First Amendment, which they are not. Our Fourth Estate does not vigorously defend the First Amendment. And it's quite tragic, really, that we live in an era where the American news media is supposed to be the model for the world, doesn't stand up for free speech, pure and simple.
Well, I'm old enough to remember when the President of the United States, Donald Trump, was kicked off of social media and completely banned from all free speech on that platform. So thank God we have Elon Musk, who took over X and changed that for us. But this is not surprising at all from CNN. It is disturbing. It continues to be disturbing. And as long as the Ayatollah is free to post and say whatever they want on social media, then God willing, so should the rest of us be. I mean, there is no excuse for having censorship.
So should your grandma, who's tweeting about how COVID came from a lab and posting memes.
I mean, exactly.
We're talking about Grandma Sue.
Yeah, Grandma Sue would do that. But I
she
think
totally would.
Mark Zuckerberg said in the video that this was basically directly related to the outcome of the election. So I'm not sure that he had a true red pilling like Elon Musk did. But you are seeing that Meta is basically trying to hire a lot of Republicans. He hired my friend Francis Brennan, great hire, over at Meta. And to Abby Phillip's point, people under 35 don't use Facebook. The whole point is it's Meta. They use Instagram.
That's right.
They use
That's
WhatsApp.
right.
So,
Exactly.
and listen, if they are just going to shamelessly plagiarize Elon Musk's community notes and things like that, I think that the platform will be better off. And it's a shame, I think, that it took a convincing Republican win to make this happen. But I'd rather it happen now than never. And you see the sort of the red pilling of Silicon Valley, right? Trump brought David Sachs into the administration as an AI czar. I think that Elon Musk buying Twitter set in motion a lot of things that we're now starting to see happen.
Well, and I've got to say, you talked about how you're old-fashioned and free speech matters, and I'm kind of one of these, I may disagree with what you have to say, but I'll fight to the death for your right to say it kind of guys. And that's a fundamental American ethic, and our news media does not carry that flag.
Well, I think it's a good thing that Facebook should be a beacon of free expression, but I don't think people should be thinking, they should get all their news from social media. There's a real role for
from this show.
Of course, but there's a role for mainstream media outlets that have the reporters, the editors. And if I didn't have the editors, my stories would be much worse.
Hello, there are plenty of biased editors out there. You're seeing what Washington Post being one of those, New York Times. So many of them are so far left that they are not objective journalists. And let me tell you something. Get rid of anonymous sources. Why don't you start there, where you
I would have no career without anonymous sources.
Yes, you could. Yes, because then there's no way to fact check that. There's no way to fact check that. It's sources close to the White House, and you guys would get those stories wrong time and time again. And you're counting on the credibility of individuals who are constantly trying to destroy conservatives. I've seen it time and time again.
They would have
Daniel, I'm
they would
sorry.
have anonymous
Enough.
sources.
That's why citizen journalism is rising up.
They would have
it
anonymous
is rising
sources
up in America.
Who would, be telling people what was actually going on in the Trump White House. You need to have anonymous sources to tell people what's going on. They don't want to get fired.
Covering what happened in the Biden White House. I think people will be very
there's going to be a big shift in that press.
Well, here's something that's not anonymous.
Have been bored under Biden. They've had nothing to report about. That press room is about to get a huge
They have chosen to be bored.
We might even get Joe Rogan in there.
They
Who
chose
knows?
to cover up Joe Biden's mental decline.
My favorite part about the Zuckerberg video is he's wearing a $900,000 watch. That's not enough.
We should get Joe Rogan in the White House press room.
Joe Rogan in the press room.
Sorry, Chris.
The mainstream media is not going to be happy with the amount of censorship they get until and when they are able to actually say whatever they want without repercussions. And that's what people in the UK have to be seriously worried about, posting something on social media and getting thrown in jail.
Okay, so let's hang on to what was just said at the end of that episode right there, because I want to tell you guys kind of a funny story. So my family, and I'm an only child, I don't have a big family, but my family hates what I do for a living. They are very progressive people, woke, mind virusy, triple vaxxed and boosted. I love them all unconditionally, but we don't really have a lot in common when it comes to our politics or, our faith or anything like that. And so none of my family, not even my parents, have ever watched me on television. I don't think any of them really read anything that I've written since moving to the US. And most of you are thinking like, well, okay, if they disagree with you politically, why would they listen to you? Well, my background actually isn't in politics, it's in science. I got my visa as a science writer and realized that all of our social sciences right now, they're pretty much destroying us. Great example, we can go back to the first segment of today's show. We're talking about the wildfires in Los Angeles. This is a prime example of how our social sciences can kill us. Like, this is what happens when you elect a bunch of really stupid people to make really important decisions that impact all of us. Like, obviously the decisions that these people are going to make are going to be stupid, and then it's to all of our detriment. But I just want to sit here and just say how grateful I am to every single person in this country. Back in November, you guys made a decision that protected all of us from becoming just like Britain. I just think it's magical. I really do think that America is the greatest country on earth. Let's pivot again now over to Finnerty, who spoke to Charlie Kirk last night about his fact-finding trip in another foreign country, Greenland.
Can you assure the world that as you try to get control of these areas, you are not going to use military or economic coercion?
No.
So if Greenland does join the U.S., it would increase the size of America by a third. And that's his legacy right there. 1,000 years from now, if you mention Donald Trump's name, they would know him just like they know Thomas Jefferson's name for the Louisiana Purchase. Greenland, almost the exact same size in square miles as the Louisiana Purchase, and 16 states can trace their roots right back to that one move in 1803 by Thomas Jefferson. And just like the Louisiana Purchase, Greenland might actually have more untapped natural resources than any other place on the planet right now. It makes a ton of sense from a military standpoint as well, putting the U.S. right in the middle of the Arctic Sea as it melts. Greenland's prime minister has also been very public about wanting to be liberated from Danish rule. On Twitter, a Danish journalist listed out the reasons why Denmark should sell Greenland to the United States, writing that the U.S. is a highly valued ally to Denmark, but we are a small country and we can't contribute that much to the alliance. But we can contribute by selling Greenland, and that's something. Denmark doesn't have the ability to mine or extract the oil. Selling to someone who can make sense, and that would mean we don't have to sell those mining rights to China. China wants them. Donald Trump Jr. traveled to Greenland yesterday, and he joined us last night. Tonight, we're joined by the man who joined him on Trump Force One for this trip yesterday. Charlie Kirk is with us, founder of Turning Point USA. Charlie, good to have you back.
Thank you. Great to see you.
So this was quite a trip yesterday. You flew from Florida to Greenland, and you made it back for dinner at Mar-a-Lago last night. Take us through the whole day. What was this like?
It's pretty remarkable, yeah. Don called me up. He said, hey, Charlie, do you want to go to Greenland with me? I said, that is an offer I can't resist, and not an offer I thought I'd ever get. We boarded Trump Force One at 2 a.m., 6-hour flight up to Nuuk. We got off the plane right as the sun was rising at 11 a.m. local time. They only get a couple hours of sunlight there. And we were met by hundreds of people with MAGA hats and American flags that were so enthusiastic about our entrance and our just basically fact-finding mission. We wanted to learn about what was happening there. We came as tourists. We didn't meet with any government officials, no one in their official capacity. We then went to some of the local sites, as you see some of the pictures there, went up to the hill, very sacred hill there in downtown Nuuk, which actually commemorates the first missionary that came there in the 1700s. We went to the local museum, the local cultural center. We met with locals, dozens of them, and heard their stories. What we learned is a couple things. Number one, the people of Greenland are awesome. They're tough people. They have tough winters. They've been through a lot, and they feel forgotten, but they're the most lovely people. Number two, they feel as if they're mistreated right now by the Danish government, that the Danish government is not treating them the way that they like to be treated, and they want to be wealthy again. And that is the third thing. The locals were telling us about how they have rubies on the side of the streets in some of their neighborhoods, about the oil and minerals, about the lithium, about the nickel they have in their country, and they want to be able to use it. They do not want to be terrorized by Russia or China, and Greenland entering the United States of America would give them safety, security, and prosperity for generations to come.
Yeah, there's only 56,000 people there, so it sounds like you met with about half of the population. This Danish journalist said that for about $5 billion, you could get everybody in Greenland $100,000 and just have them take down the Danish flag and raise the American flag. Any idea, just in your conversations with Don Jr. on Trump Force One, how much do you think this would cost the United States to acquire Greenland from Denmark?
No idea, but I will say just trust the president's ability to execute the art of the deal. There's a lot of ideas out there in the public dialogue that are interesting. And I'll just say from my conversation with the citizens of Nuuk and of Greenland, they might vote to just leave Denmark as it is right now. They are not thrilled. They're not happy with the current accommodations or arrangements. Understand, Denmark has entered the Greta Thunberg style of radical environmentalism. They don't want to use this oil, natural gas. They don't want to use this natural resources. And they say, wait a second, we have this liquid gold, and this Trump guy is talking about liquid gold all the time in America. Why don't we have that for our country? And so you kind of see the connecting dots here. So I have no idea what a purchase would look like. I will say we have the greatest deal maker in the history of deals. Right. President Donald Trump will be able to deliver this if that's what he wants. He seems to be signaling that with quite some significant force, and it would be a major benefit for the United States of America. Let me say that in closing, is that our country would grow stronger, more secure, and wealthier if we added Greenland to our ever vibrant and prosperous country.
Yeah, and what does that mean for Trump's legacy if he actually does accomplish this? Because I'll tell you what, today, the liars on the other networks were all mocking Trump for even bringing this up.
Oh, I'm sure they're mocking it. The networks then won't get invited to the opening of our new consulate or whatever we might have in Nuuk. I mean, they can laugh all they want, but if President Trump gets this deal done, it will go down as geopolitical significance. It'll go down as securing the nation, and also what an amazing opportunity to be able to give more prosperity to more people. So they can mock it all they want, but those are the same people that said about 3 years ago after January 6th that President Trump's political career is over. So the fact they're mocking it means that it's almost assured that President Trump is going to get this deal done. All
right, Charlie Kirk, great to see you. Thanks so much for being with us. We appreciate you telling us about that trip yesterday. That must have been quite a day. Thank you.
Okay, and our final hit this evening is the lovely Rob Schmitt with the even lovelier Rand Paul, talking all about the rest of Trump's agenda for the next 4 years. It's a fun story, or fun series of stories. Huge fan of Rob, huge fan of Rand. Anyway, take it away, Rob.
Senator Rand Paul joins us now, one of the biggest fiscal hawks in the Senate. And sir, it's good to have you back on. One big, beautiful bill doesn't sound like the kind of thing you usually like to hear.
Well, it sort of depends. I mean, there are a lot of things that do unite us. The tax cuts is big. I mean, it's huge. $4 trillion worth of tax cuts that are already in place. So basically, the American economy is predicated upon these tax cuts. If they go away, it's a tax increase. So that unites almost all of us. I don't know that any Republican is against not only keeping the tax breaks, but making them permanent. They have been a big boon for the economy. Nothing is probably more important than keeping the tax cuts in the bill. Unites all of us. On drilling and allowing more permitting from the federal government to drill on federal lands, I think it unites virtually all of us on that as well. The things that are potential at dividing us would be raising the debt ceiling with this bill. So if there's an attempt to raise the debt ceiling, I won't vote for the bill. And the reason is I haven't voted for the spending. I've voted every time against expanding the spending. I've voted for balanced budgets. I've introduced balanced budgets. The people who need to be ashamed or need to be participating in a day of shame and voting for the raising of the debt ceiling are the Democrats and the big government Republicans who vote for the spending. It's the way it's always been done in the past. Conservatives have never voted to raise the debt ceiling because we don't vote for the spending. It's not our responsibility. It's the people who vote for the spending and for the debt to vote for it. So hopefully they'll keep that off of the reconciliation bill. If they do, I think we can stay united enough to pass the bill.
If, it's... What do you think happens if Democrats come out and say we're not going to vote for this? If it can't get now, if it's reconciliation, does it just need 50 in the Senate?
Yeah, it just needs 50.
This big bill would only need 50.
Yeah, but it needs virtually every Republican in the House. And so what I'm telling you and what I'm hoping conservatives will hear across the land, conservatives like myself are all for virtually everything in there, securing the border, cutting taxes. We're for the whole package, but we're not for raising the debt ceiling. And that's already been evidenced. At Christmas time, we had this. Most of the Freedom Caucus voted against raising the debt ceiling. So as long as they're separated out, you can keep all the Republicans together. But the one way to destroy it, the one thing that destroys it, is sticking the debt ceiling on this bill. So I hope the powers that be will not do that.
You think in the House, like Chip Roy and Massey and those fellas wouldn't go for that either?
I can't speak for them. All I can say is that 38 of them, and I think those two were included, voted against the package that raised the debt ceiling. I will vote against any package that includes raising the debt ceiling. So let's hope we can come together on the things we agree on. Tax cuts, securing the border, hopefully spending cuts. I want spending cuts to be part of this as well.
Well, and I think the concerns that you and others have were heard by Trump, because when he spoke at that news conference yesterday, I don't know if you heard him, but he mentioned something about, I'm all for cutting spending. I mean, I think he's definitely getting that, he's getting that message. And he's been a rather spendy president in the past. He did, that was maybe one of the flaws that he had. If you're a fiscal conservative, was looking at how much debt he incurred. I think he's gotten your message, though.
Yeah, and it's. I think the public is with us. I think the business community is with us. I think people are seeing this cliff, this fiscal cliff that's coming upon us.
It's
Social
horrific.
Security is going to be bankrupt. Social Security will be bankrupt in 2034. We have to start cutting expenses. We have to do everything we can to encourage the economy to grow. That helps to balance your budget. But we also need to cut expenses. 2/3 of all the expenses are entitlements. You have to look at entitlements. The remaining third, half of it's military. You have to look at military. The problem is in my caucus, I hear them clamoring. The military hawks want more military money. But the only way they get that, by busting the caps, is they usually give the Democrats more welfare money. So it's warfare and welfare. They go together. And that's what the clamor is now. The clamor isn't actually in my caucus for balancing the budget. The clamor among the establishment, big government Republicans, is for spending more money on the military.
Understood. Totally understood. If there's one, I'm always screaming about the debt. I can't believe what we're doing to the future generations in this country just so we can live a little bit higher on the hog. It's so despicable.
All right. God bless you all for sticking with me and my cold today. My name is Kay Hill, and you can find me on social media under Kay Hill or Kay Smythe. You can read my trend forecasting over at millionvoices.org, and you can catch me on Carl Hegbee's Frontline exclusively on Newsmax every Tuesday and Thursday, as well as over on Ed Henry's on Newsmax 2 on Mondays. All of these are exclusive to Newsmax, guys, so why don't you just roll over the next show, listen to yesterday's podcast. It's not going to be out of date yet. Tony brought you some fascinating stories yesterday, so go check that out and be sure to tune in again tomorrow. God bless you and have the best day, America.
News breaks every minute, every day. You need the app, the Newsmax app. Find it free on your smartphone store. Then watch us anytime, anywhere.
Relentlessly slowing the spread of the stupid every day. It's the Rob Carson Show.
Hey, it's Rob Carson. My podcast is about leading-edge commentary and opinion, great guests, and the biggest political comedy in the country. My satire was featured on the Rush Limbaugh program for over a decade, and now it's fresh and new and on my podcast. It's not just another desk-pounding conservative tirade. It's about entertaining, informing, and motivating. Patriotism and hope. You don't need more stress in your life. You need to feel good and, dare I say, even laugh. Subscribe and download at your favorite podcast platform or go to newsmax.com/listen.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.